So you can see that while some may consider it an amusing method of transportation, it is not an efficient one. And so Mr. Snicket was unable to reach here, and instead I'm here in his place. But why are we here? Why am I telling you such a scarcely believable story? Well, the question why are we here is a philosophical one which will never be answered to our satisfaction. But as to why I'm telling you this scarcely believable story is because we're going to be learning 3 moral lessons today. We're going to be learning 3 moral lessons. This, my index finger pointing at you, is the first of 3 moral lessons. 1, 2, 3. The index finger is the first. My middle finger, when it points at you later, will be the second. And the ring finger, when it points at you later, will be the third. There are 3 moral lessons that I'm teaching you. And the first one, of course, is never raise your hands. That's right. Never raise your hand because you expose your armpit to potentially dangerous biting when you raise your hand. So it appears to me that some of you in this more or less good-looking audience go to school. Do you go to school or you work in a factory? School? You go to school? So tomorrow, how lucky for you. Thank you for my very inexpensive shoes. But when you go to school, and your teacher says, let's review. Who can tell me what 1 + 1 is? Anyone who can just let someone else answer it. Just let someone else answer it. It's only school. Let someone else get a good education while you remain safe and insect-free. Now that is the work of genius. What is your name, sir? Peter, will you stand up, please?
Oh my God.
And face our more or less international audience and show everyone the Peter method. You are raising your hand like this to attract the attention of others, but so as not to expose your armpit to infection. The Peter method. I've heard of the Peter method before, but I always thought it was something else. Very, very well done. Now, although it is sad, it is somehow appropriate that Mr. Snicket was prevented from coming here by an unfortunate event, because Mr. Snicket has researched and written down unfortunate events in books that look more or less like this. Now, how many of you have read something of Mr. Snicket's work? Have you learned nothing? Have I not performed a ballet on this bema? Fallen to the floor, desperately miming. You didn't even use the Peter method. We're only on the first of the three moral lessons. Now, using the Peter method, who here can grab my attention and name one of the terrible things that happens to the Baudelaire orphans, any of the terrible things that happen in their lives? Yes, madam?
They had to live with Count Olaf.
It is true. They had to live with Count Olaf. Count Olaf, Count Olaf, Count Olaf. A villain whose name is so terrible I can scarcely stand to say it out loud more than 3 times in a row. But I'm thinking of one of the terrible things that Count Olaf forces the children to do. It's awful. Yes, you have a guess, sir?
To be his slaves.
To be his slaves. Slavery is, in fact, a terrible, terrible thing, and many of us who perhaps have been slaves, perhaps in our own lives or formal lives, know exactly how terrible it is to be a slave. But I'm thinking of something even arguably worse, yes?
Well, he wants to get their fortune.
Yes, greed for money. Arguably worse than slavery. Always lovely to visit Manhattan. That's a... You have a guess?
Yeah, it's probably wrong, but he made them work at a freak show.
Made them work at a freak show. You're quite close, and close enough that I'm going to call you right, even though you're wrong. I'm thinking of a moment in this particular book where the Baudelaire children are forced to work in the kitchen. I know it is awful. I know it is dreadful. Perhaps some of you, even in this city so nice that they named it twice, have had to work in the kitchen. Perhaps you have had to walk into a kitchen and help cook. Perhaps you have had to help unpack takeout food that has arrived in the kitchen. Perhaps you have had to walk into the kitchen and greet someone who was there. Then you know just how miserable life can be. But nevertheless, I'm going to read out loud a short selection from this book of Mr. Snicket's, in which the children are forced to work in the kitchen to demonstrate, yes, we're there already, the second of the 3 moral lessons. The first, of course, never raise your hand except when using the Peter method, and here the second, already my middle finger pointed at you, even though we haven't known each other that long, the second of the 3 moral lessons, and it is, of course, if you see Count Olaf, scream and run away. Many people ask me, do these books have any messages for young people? And of course they have messages for young people, madam. If you see Count Olaf, scream and run away. One of the most important lessons in all literature. Have you ever been kidnapped? Have you ever been kidnapped? It's a yes or no question.
No.
Really? Well, you have a big surprise coming up then. Have you ever been locked in the trunk of a car? What are you planning on doing tomorrow?
Going to school.
You have a big surprise waiting for you. Anyway, I'll be reading out loud this passage from the bad beginning, and as I read out loud, I'll be doing something called EAP, which is what? EAP? E-A-P? EAP? What grade are you in?
I'm in 6th grade.
You're in 6th grade and you're not sure exactly what I mean by EAP. I don't think you should go to that school anymore. I think first thing tomorrow you should get a job instead. Any school where they're not teaching you EAP is not worth its salt, and there's many things a young woman like yourself could do in a big city like this. EAP is eurythmic auditory participation. Duh. I see I'll have to teach you not only the 3 moral lessons, but eurythmic auditory participation as I read from this book.